Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you love captivating stories about men transforming into women in unique and fascinating ways, then be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Now, let's jump right into today's tale.
Chapter 5. Losing Himself. Naruto sat hunched over on the edge of the examination table, his head buried in his hand. For once, the bright lights of Tsunade's medical lab didn't feel glaring, they felt suffocating. He could feel the changes happening in his body, and no matter how much he tried to brush it off with his usual bravado, this time felt different. This time, it wasn't just his face or his voice. It wasn't just the way his shoulders had narrowed, or his walk had smoothed out. This time, it was everything. "All right, Naruto." Tsunade's voice cut through the room, brisk and professional as ever. "Lie down. We're starting the next phase of the transformation." Naruto didn't move. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "Did you hear me?" "Yeah, I heard you," Naruto muttered, still not looking up. "I'm just thinking." Tsunade frowned, crossing the room to stand in front of him. "We're on a tight schedule, Naruto. You don't have time to overthink this." Naruto finally lifted his head, his face unusually pale. "It's not about the mission, Granny. It's about me." Tsunade's expression softened slightly, though her tone remained firm. "What about you?" Naruto gestured vaguely at his body, his hands flopping uselessly at his sides. All of this, my face, my voice, my everything. It's not me anymore. I look in the mirror and I don't even know who I am. I don't feel like myself." Tsunade sighed, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Naruto, I know this is hard, but you knew what you were signing up for when you agreed to this mission." "I thought I knew," Naruto said, his voice cracking slightly. "But I didn't think it'd feel like I'm losing myself." "You're not losing yourself," Tsunade said firmly. "You're adapting. There's a difference." Naru didn't respond. "Ichaya, call it, why you?" He just stared down at his hands that no longer looked like his own. They were slim and delicate now, with long tapered fingers and soft, unblemished skin. He clenched them into fists, but even that felt wrong. It was like trying to hold on to sand as it slipped through his fingers. Despite his hesitation, Naruto eventually lay back on the table, staring up at the ceiling as Tsunade began the next phase of the procedure. He could feel the warm hum of her chakra flowing through him, reshaping his body with an almost mechanical precision. This time, the changes were far more noticeable. He could feel the subtle shifts in his body as his fat redistributed, softening his once lean frame into something undeniably feminine. His chest tingled first, a faint pressure that quickly became impossible to ignore. He didn't have to look to know what was happening. He could feel it. His breathing hitched as he felt the weight settle on his chest, a sensation so alien and foreign that it made his stomach twist in knots. Then there were his hips and thighs. The muscles in his legs ached as they stretched and shifted, giving way to curves that felt completely unnatural. His waist, already slimmed down from the earlier phases, now seemed even smaller in comparison to the fullness of his hips. And his backside, well, he wasn't even going to think about that. By the time Tsunade was finished, Naruto felt like a stranger in his own skin. "All right," Tsunade said, stepping back to inspect her work. "That's phase 3, complete. Take a look." Naruto sat up slowly, his movements stiff and awkward. He didn't want to look. He didn't want to see what else had changed. But his curiosity got the better of him. and he turned toward the mirror. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The person staring back at him was beautiful. She had Samui's signature poise and elegance, her curves perfectly proportioned, and her features flawlessly feminine. Her long-toned legs seemed to go on forever, and her figure was the kind that could turn heads without even trying. But that was the problem. It wasn't him. It was holy. Naruto whispered, his voice trembling. He turned to Tsunade, his eyes wide. This is too much. Tsunade crossed her arms. It's exactly what it needs to be. You're not just pretending to be Samui, Naruto. You are Samui, at least for the duration of this mission. But I don't even look like myself anymore, Naruto protested, his voice rising in pitch. I feel like I'm disappearing. You're not disappearing, Tsunade said, her tone sharp. You're still you, Naruto. Your heart, your mind, your will. None of that has changed. Naruto shook his head, his hands trembling. It doesn't feel that way. Later that evening, Naruto sat alone in the training room, staring blankly at his reflection in one of the mirrors. He was dressed in one of Samui's uniforms, a snug, form-fitting outfit that only made him feel more detached from himself. He shifted uncomfortably, tugging at the fabric around his chest. This is so stupid, he muttered under his breath. How am I supposed to fight like this? Or eat ramen? Or be yourself? A voice interrupted. Naruto turned to see Sakura standing in the doorway, her expression soft but concerned. She walked over and sat down beside him, folding her hands in her lap. Yeah, Naruto admitted after a moment. Or be myself. Sakura tilted her head, studying his reflection in the mirror. You know, I get it. I felt that way before. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You? When? Back when I first started training with Tsunade, Sakura said with a small smile. I felt like I wasn't strong enough, like I didn't belong. I thought I had to become someone completely different just to keep up with you and Sasuke. Naruto frowned. That's not the same thing, isn't it? Sakura asked, turning to face him. You think you're losing yourself because you look different. But you're not. You're still Naruto, the same loud, stubborn, determined idiot I've known my whole life. Naruto snorted. Thanks. Sakura smiled. I mean it. Your appearance doesn't define who you are. Your actions do. Your values do. And no matter what you look like, you're still the same person who never gives up, no matter how hard things get. Naruto looked down at his hands, her words sinking in. But what if I mess up? What if I can't pull this off? You won't mess up, Sakura said firmly. Because no matter how much you doubt yourself, you always find a way to succeed. That's who you are, Naruto. Not this mission, not Samui's face, you. For the first time that day, Naruto felt a small flicker of hope. He glanced at Sakura, his lips twitching into a faint smile. You're really good at this pep talk thing, you know that? Sakura smirked. I've had plenty of practice. You need a lot of pep talks. Naruto chuckled, the sound lightening the heavy atmosphere. Yeah, I guess I do. The next morning, Naruto stood in front of the mirror again, dressed in full Samui attire. The reflection still felt strange, but this time, it didn't bother him as much. Sakura's words echoed in his mind, grounding him. You're still Naruto, he whispered to himself. No matter what. He squared his shoulders, well, as much as his now narrow shoulders would allow, and smirked. All right, Samui, he said, mimicking her calm, collected tone. Let's show the world what I can do. For the first time in weeks, he felt like himself again.